Welcome, artists. This week we will be talking about the element of art texture in our warm-ups. Now, this is going to be a little different than any of our previous warm-ups in that first we're going to use all the elements of art. This is our last one, so we're going to just kind of end up putting them all in this final one. And they're all going to be kind of a one-piece deal, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So we're going to start by creating a form, which is one of our elements of art, and that form is going to be a cylinder. I'm going to put my cylinder over here. So what you do is make a long oval shape, about an inch or so high, could be a little more. And then a cylinder is like a pipe. So I'm just drawing this slightly, about the length of my finger. So if I lay down my finger here, maybe a little shorter than that, a little longer. It really is okay if you make it, as long as it's somewhere thereabouts. And this just gives us space to work. And we're gonna use this all week long. Today is our first day though, and so it's a little more work today than it will be the rest of the week. Okay, so there's our cylinder. Nice and simple, straightforward. And what we're going to do is we're going to divide this cylinder up into 5 parts. And you may guess that those 5 parts are for each day of our 5 warm-ups. And you want to do this part lightly as well. And the curve that you use should match these 2 curves on the ends of your cylinders, because we want this to have form. We don't want it to be flat. We want it to have some form. I think mine are a little, I have to make some adjustments on my divisions here. Excuse me. Had to get my eraser. Just make these a little better here. Yeah, that'll work. They don't have to be perfect. Okay, so you got 5 sections, one for each day of the week, and then we're going to use value before we ever do anything else the rest of the week. We're going to make this cylinder look like a cylinder by adding value. Remember, you use value to create form in 2-dimensional art, whether that's just grayscale value or even color value. So what's going to happen is whatever we draw on top of this is going to have this underlying value going on here. And that's what we want. Just gradually fading this up. Our light's coming down this way, and it's kind of hitting along this area here. So even at the top, where it's wrapping around, we're going to have some light to mid-tone value coming in real light, and then we'll leave that white. Remember, it's always easiest with value to just slowly build it up. That way you get what you want. You don't go overboard right away. It looks pretty good. And I'm actually going to do the end. Be a little more careful than I was with my sketch. Okay, that'll work. Okay, so I've got this cylinder. Right now my cylinder's kind of floating a little bit. I'm going to put a little bit of value under it so it looks like it's resting on something. And you can blend that out, make it look nice and soft under there. There we go, that helps. Okay, so texture is our element of art this week. So there's lots of different kinds of textures. We're going to start with a pretty easy one, which is fur. So how do you draw fur? Well, fur is, if you think about it, it's made, hairs are like lines. So it's just made up of lines. So whether you choose to do short or long fur, what you want to do is just make lots of lines. And if you notice, I started this way, and the fur's going back on top of those lines. And that's because that way you get the realistic sense of it overlapping. And now keep in mind that down here it's going to be darker, and as it comes up around, we'll make it lighter. And the way that we can do that is by spacing and also by the pressure of our pencil. And you'll see I'm letting it overlap a little bit onto the next day. So now I'm getting into where my highlight is, and that doesn't mean there'll be no hair there. Just means I'm going to use lighter pressure, maybe space it out a little more. When I'm putting these marks on my paper, I'm kind of pulling my pencil up so that at the tips of my hair the line actually gets thinner, and that's just an issue of pressure. So I start out with more pressure, and then for each hair, as I come to the end of that hair, I let up. Here on the top, they're going to get a little darker again. It's kind of a wind-blown fur look, isn't it? It's okay. Okay, so there's our first texture. It's fur. Tomorrow we will add a new texture, and then at the end of the week we're going to have this cylinder that is a texture cylinder.